Hi, ca181, and welcome to the halfway point. I can't believe it. You are 3 weeks in, 3 weeks out for this class to be over. And since that makes you 9 weeks away from your externship, we're going to start this class. Chef Gina Donovan is joining us. She will be your externship instructor. So Chef Gina, please take it away.
Thank you, Chef, and thanks for having me today. Hello, everybody. Gina Donovan here. I'll be your externship instructor along with our externship evaluator, Chef Steve Brown, which you can meet him next class as well. We'll be visiting you next class. But I'm here today to introduce myself, to get the conversation of externship started. It is just around the corner, and you all should know by now how quickly these classes go. 6 weeks, 12 weeks, they fly by. So you have this class, you have Farm to Table next. You will have a little summer break at the end of this, so it'll be, what, nine plus weeks. But I do have a presentation that I'll go through very quickly and maybe answer some questions. But more importantly, I'm going to give you my contact information because externship is a very individual process. You all are all over the place, so you'll run into different things, different questions you'll all have. So you can reach out to me personally, you can reach out to Chef Steve Brown, and you can reach out to Career Services. All of us are a team, and we're all working together to make sure that you're set up successfully for externship when you take it in 2 terms. So I'm going to share my screen. And you should all see my little slideshow with my contact information. I'm Chef Donovan at escoffier.edu, and you can reach Chef Steve at sbrown@staff.escoffier.edu. These phone numbers, you can text, call, leave messages. And I will just get started with some details. Externship is a course. It's an actual class. It doesn't just start when you start working at an externship site. It's actually a scheduled class. So you will have to complete all of your core classes, all of your practical classes. You finish Farm to Table, and with a 2.0 GPA or higher, you are then scheduled for externship. So for all of you, that means August 21st is when the externship course starts. It's a 6-week class, and it ends October 1st. So that October 1st date is a really exciting date because that's the day you complete externship, you pass the class, and you become an official graduate. So it's not the day of your actual graduation, the ceremony. October 1st will be the day that you complete the program. You finish all of your coursework, you finished externship, and you pass the class. So how do you pass the class? First, you need an externship site. So you will, for you all, externship is going to be an opportunity for you to learn and grow and develop the skills that you've learned so far. So you'll be in a kitchen, you'll be maybe rotating through, you'll be at a certain station, whatever you're doing. I mean, I heard at the beginning of class, Chef Sophia talking about you never stop learning. So wherever you are in that kitchen, you will be learning for those 6 weeks. But first, you're going to need the site. You have the site, great. Now you need to show us. So for you all, it's about learning and growing and developing. And then for Chef Steve and myself, we're here in place to guide you through those 6 weeks to make sure that you have all of your paperwork in. And to, as an accredited program, we make sure that everything is wrapped up and tidy. You have, an externship site. Are you working for somebody that you'll continue to learn and grow? So we do the paper trail part of it. We make sure your hours are in and kind of all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, that kind of thing. And so if you don't have an externship site yet, this is a great time to start. Like I said, you have a summer break at the end of this class. You still have next term. And before you start externship, you need that externship agreement and site agreement in. 2 separate agreements, kind of saying the same thing. You're a student, you're getting school credit, you need 150 hours, all of that, and they agree to it, you agree to it. This is the time you should be working with Career Services. They are a really great resource for you. You each have a Career Services rep that you could be working with. And if you don't have a site or you have any questions about it or you want 2 sites or you want a new site, they'll help you with that. They'll give you leads. They'll give you assistance on how to make those initial site visits. They have a lot of workshops that they hold that you can go to. They can help you with your resume. They can do mock interviews with you. They are a whole team dedicated to help you start and or continue your career. So some additional details. The class, as I said, is a 6-week course. So starting in August there, you'll need 150 hours by the end, by October. That averages to 25 hours per week. But you know, this is the hospitality industry, so you'll have weeks maybe with more hours, a ton of hours, less hours, as long as you hit that 150 hour mark at the end. And many of you will be well above and beyond that 150 hours, which is perfectly fine. It's a really easy class. You know, it's about you learning and growing. So what we want to see is that you're in the kitchen, you're hands-on, you're getting experience, and you are learning. So we have few assignments. Your weekly timesheet, that's your attendance. That's your weekly homework. You work Wednesday through Tuesday, Tuesday evenings, you submit your hours for the week. That's your assignment every single week. We even have digital timesheets. So you can pick up your phone, you go onto the class, you click a link, and then you have the timesheet right there on your phone. You put your hours in, hand the phone over, supervisor signs it, hit submit, and that's your homework for the week. That is it. So we try to make it really easy so that you can do all that learning and growing and developing. We only have 2 live sessions, so we'll have one the very first day of class on that Wednesday, and you'll show up, or you can watch the archive, of course, and we'll discuss all the details. How do you submit the weekly timesheet? How do you get onto the timesheet? There'll be questions, I'm sure. And then we have 2 discussion forums, and we'll have an externship reflection essay at the end, just reflecting on your experience for the 6 weeks. Hours will only count for externship once you're scheduled in the class for that 6-week period, so that, that August 21st date. And career services. So if you need to contact or connect with your rep, you can hear our phone numbers here, but really it's so easy. Just email this career services at ca181.edu. Say you need help finding an externship site, you need help finding a job, whatever it is, and they will assign it to your rep, and someone will be, get back to you within 24 hours. So that's their contact information. That career services at ca181.edu, that's the best email to use because someone's always checking those, and it belongs to all of us. So we can all see, if you've reached out, we can make sure someone will get back to you. I'm gonna just turn this slide. And once again, that's my contact information. I'll put it into the chat as well, so you have it. And you can, again, text, leave a voicemail. I'll get back to you within the day or the next morning. And Chef Steve is around to help as well. And I can answer questions, but really if you have questions, you can reach out to me and I can help you with those about externship.
Who has questions? Robert, go for it.
Okay, every time that I have asked calling student services or whatever, they say automatically they come back with this email that says your ticket has been punched and reply above, this, that, and the other. But when you do, you don't ever hear anything back from them. You actually have to get a hold of somebody on the phone or chef instructor or evaluator or whatever, because nobody ever gets.
Yeah, I'll put my my direct information in here. And so, yeah, I mean, what you're saying is correct. It's a system that we all have access to. So you get a reply right away saying, okay, we see you have a message. We will get back to you within 24 hours or whatever that message says. But you should be getting somebody. And if not, reach out to me and I'll make sure that your question gets answered or connect you to the rep that you need. And I'm putting it in the chat just now so you have that. You could text me, you can email me.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me know.
Not a problem.
Anybody else?
Yes, we have Dawn. Go for it.
Yay! Hey, Chef Gina, thanks for the information. Chef Kareen, hello, good evening. So, Chef Gina, thank you for the information. I'm glad you got 2 points of contact there. I've already been in touch with our rep down in Florida, Natalie, and also Deborah. So there's always that confusion, but I always get pointed in the right direction, whether I go that way or not. Well, but thanks, because I will contact you because some of us fall underneath the Disabled American Veterans Program, and we have certain criteria, certain things that we have to try and work around. And after reading the paperwork that you put out there, it says something about 8 hours and something like that. I think that's just saying you could work up to those 8 hours. You know, you're not there to replace employees, that sort of concept. So I just want to be able to get a fine tune, and I'm glad you came on tonight. So this gives me another point of contact to really focus on some of those things, because we're going to need them. But I was just saying thank you. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, there are a lot of details, and yeah, they're in the little bullet points for those agreements. I think that 8-hour thing, it's really about you all not being taken advantage of. Some of you may have to get unpaid sites, and we really want to make sure that it's win-win. You have to be getting something out of it. If it's an unpaid site and they're working you 12 hours, 6 days a week, that's probably not going to work. You only need 25 hours a week, and if you're not getting paid, they need to kind of see that you only need those 150 in that 6 week, and you kind of spread it out through the 6 weeks. And that's, I think, what that 8 hours a day is. And yeah, so and our work weeks are kind of strange. They don't always reflect your schedule, which will be like Monday through Sunday or whatever it is. We're Wednesday through Tuesday. So there might be days that it looks like you're working 7 days in a row, but we'll talk about that when we need to. Thanks, Don.
All right, Tim, go for it.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. My question is, are there affiliates that, or restaurants or establishments that Escoffier conducts their business with externships, or is it all on our own?
Both. We have hosted so many externs at this point that the Career Services Department's really keeping a database of every externship site that has hosted an extern. So depending on where you are, they will have a list of places that we know host externs. But you are also, you're responsible to find a site. Obviously work with Career Services and see what leads they can help you with. But, again, we have had so many students at this point that we'll get new sites over and over every term. So
I understand that. I mean, I want to get the proper evaluation that I want to get. Anybody can, I'm not saying anybody, man. You can probably go work at a fast food place and get the evaluation you need to get. But I was wondering, if I can't find a site, am I able to reach out to Career Services and figure that out?
Yes. Sooner rather than later. Reach out to Career Services now. Work side by side with them. Tell them where you've gone, what you're looking for, what you have in mind. We are not, certain places, like you've mentioned, fast food, those would be kind of a maybe with an exception, but really we want to see you in a kitchen working with maybe scratch ingredient. I mean, everyone's going to have a different,
Yeah.
task. So you will work with Career Services to let them know what you're looking for, and then together as a team, hopefully we'll come up with something that's a good fit for you.
Okay, so do I have till week 5 of this course to nail that down?
No, week 5 of your farm to table class.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it.
No problem. Paul, go for it.
Hi, Chef. I too have been in contact with Natalie because I just started my job in the kitchen. I got my first callus, this last week, and I was unable to link with the email that Natalie sent me. So there's a fax number. If you get the 2 agreements signed, that you can actually fax the two agreements, one's the student, one's the industry. So if I could, I would share that it's 224-698-2155. If someone should run into that problem, and that's how I got around that. But I found a good restaurant, a nice site, and it's a lot of standing.
Yes, it is.
But congratulations, Paul. That's excellent news. And yes, you can fax it, but you can also take a picture of each page, just like you do with your assignments and your dishes. Take a picture and email it in, and that works. So whatever, again, we try to make it easy for you and try to give you different avenues, not to make it too confusing, but just so that you have different ways that you can get to any of us.
Mary Lou?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hi.
Paul.
Really quick, my question is, I have been talking to actually Eric, and he's been great help. When we were plotting to find anything near me, everything's about 3 to 4 hours away. And he's like, that's not really going to be feasible. And I actually asked, and he told me to bring it up to you. How about, I am in a military installation. How about if I were to ask for maybe our dining facilities within the military installation, like our DFACs, our small restaurants? Is that something I could try?
Absolutely. A kitchen, yes, if you're in a kitchen, if you're working with food, you will be learning. So yes.
Okay, so no gray area, and that I'm actually gonna be approaching them here in the next day or so, and hopefully there's not too much red tape when it comes to somebody doing an internship there. That's what I'm hoping, considering it's all soldiers or contractors.
Yeah, so, you know, like I said, each of you are going to have a different path and have kind of different like nuances that come up. This paperwork that you submit to us, this gets reviewed, and this is where it gets approved. So once you get that paperwork in, we'll take a close look at it, make sure that it looks good for compliance purposes. But if you're working in a kitchen, I saw somebody, Robert, I think, posted retirement group homes, things like that. Those all work, those kitchens. So yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All
Good
right.
question.
Gabriel.
Yes, schools.
Yeah. I was just curious if we're fortunate enough to break down the 6 weeks into like 2-week blocks. Is that okay? Like to do like 2 weeks in a food truck and 2 weeks maybe learning how to make sushi, or you know what I'm saying? Something.
Yeah.
Or should we just try to just focus on one place?
That's really up to you. If anybody here has already found the site and has worked on getting paperwork, it's not always easy. You're dealing with somebody else. It's not in your control. So with externship, again, it's about that paper trail. So you can have 5 different sites. That's fine. But I'm going to need 5 different sets of agreements between you and the site. And that's where it becomes a little bit harder. And as you know, that 6 weeks flies by. So you're thinking you'll do 2 weeks. You're just getting into the groove, you know, right, after 2, 3, 4, even 6 weeks. So the answer to your question is yes, you can have multiple sites. You may not want to go through all of that again, maybe 2. You know, you can do, a lot of times what can happen is you start getting nervous. You want to find a site. You want to make sure you're scheduled in this class. You want to make sure you pass this class. Somebody says yes, you take that job, and then the chef you really wanted to work under, or the restaurant, or whatever it is, calls you afterward. Boom, you can do both. You know, or you could give the 2 weeks notice, or finish up with the first site, get paperwork on the second, or maybe this chef's just letting you stage 1 day a week, and you're working there 1 day a week. Those hours will count. So you have a main site and somewhere else. But yes, absolutely.
Someone, excuse me for 1 minute. Someone just asked to repeat Gabriel's question. He basically was asking, is it possible to do more than one site within the 6 weeks? And she said yes, but you remember that dealing with your externship, it has to do with paper trail, turning in those timesheets, making sure they get in. When you're dealing with multiple sites, you're dealing with multiple people, right? So you want to stay on top of your documents because that proves that you did the time.
Yeah. Don, you have another question?
Yeah, it's just really quick for Mary Lou. When you decide to go to a DFAC, talk with the Master Sergeant in charge of the DFAC, but also talk with APIS or the BXPX. They have a general manager that runs all the food concessions on the installation. So they have multiple little tiny restaurants, well, places to eat that could help service what you're looking for versus just a simple DFAC. So that just gives you a little bit more to look at. That's all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Don, and thanks, Chef Karine, as well. Yeah, and for your supervisor, that actually brings up a good point. You want to make sure that you are listing a supervisor that has a culinary background or hospitality and restaurant management background. So when you do find that site, you would have to find the person in charge, like the general manager or the chef or whatever their title is, not HR. But someone that actually has the credentials that you could work under.
Robert, have a question?
Yeah, do we turn in our timesheets or do y'all get them from our supervisor?
It's a team effort. So you'll have either your smartphone, a tablet, your Chromebook, a chef's computer in the office, whatever device that you can use on site at your externship site. At the end of the week, you'll pull that out. You'll go to the link that's going to be an electronic timesheet. You put in your hours, 5, 4, 3, 2, with the dates of that week. You hand over your phone. Chef will sign your phone, hands it back to you. You hit submit, and done. It goes off into cyberspace. You can check the timesheet app, and you can see it's submitted. I get it right away. And it's done.
My chef can't sign my phone. How does this actually work? I mean, he can bring up my timesheet and show the hours I've worked, but
why can't he sign your phone?
Because my phone is not that up to date.
Okay, so years ago when I was doing externship, here's the great thing with technology. Even if it's the paper, he can sign it, you take a picture of it, and then digitally you're sending it. What's great about that is you will always have a way to track it, right? As opposed to just turning in the actual paper. So even if he can't sign your phone, he can sign the document, and then you take the picture, just like how you send in your photos of your food.
So I need a printout of the hours I worked, him to sign it, and then I take a picture of it.
If that works for you, yes. You just want to make sure you're documenting the timesheet.
But will that work?
Robert, there's either the digital timesheet, or if you need our official Escoffier timesheet where you document the hours. Once the class starts, you'll just reach out to me and I can send that to you individually if you don't have a device that you can do it on.
Okay, because he's the executive chef and I'm his sous chef, and we are just like pressed for time all the time.
It's fine, but it has to be the official. It has to be the official Escoffier timesheet that Chef Gina is going to send you, and he will only need to sign it, and that's it.
That's fine, because right now we're under a lot of pressure because
No worries.
one of our other facilities is down, so we're having to cook for all our residents in a whole nother facility of residents. So
yeah, we really want to make this easy for you. So all you have to do is keep track of hours however you need to do that. Write them down in a notebook, whatever it is. At the end of the week, put them down on paper. Do it for your chef already. So all chef needs to do is look at it, see the date, see the hours, signature, done. You take a picture, send it my way.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, guys? You good to go? Thumbs up, everybody. All right.
Call me, text me, message me if you have any other questions. We'll be working together for the next 9+ weeks. I look forward to having you in class. I'll see you in Farm to Table next term, and don't worry, it will all work out. We are here to make sure you succeed and pass and graduate. So I know some of you are nervous about that. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming, Chef.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll definitely take advantage. And like I said, Career Services, Chef Gina and Chef Steven, they're awesome at what they do. Career Services are miracle workers if you're struggling to find a site. Mary Lou, I do recommend talking to Dawn about options with you because they do know a lot about establishment, but they do not know how bases or anything like that military works. So definitely rely on Dawn. Other than that, guys, think about it. Hospitals, schools, retirement places, anything that has a kitchen where you can learn to cook something is good. A lot of people say, oh, it's only restaurants. No, you learn so many things in many, many different types of establishments in the industry. I did do my externship at a restaurant because my husband and I, we just wanted to go into fine dining. That's where our career wanted to go. And so we did a restaurant in New Orleans for John Besh, and it just opened the door for me to like, wow, really see what the industry is about. I do recommend, and this is directly to you, Paul, good shoes.
Yes.
Invest in good chef shoes. Your feet, knees, and back will definitely be grateful if you invest in a good pair of shoes. Normally, if you buy on the cheaper side, they will last a year at the most. If you buy a good pair of shoes, mine have lasted. Service shoes, you want to make them non-slippery. But my externship opened a lot of doors. What I wanted to do was just focus on fine dining. So I worked for almost no pay for very, very good chefs. And then I wanted to also experiment on different places. So I went to a grocery store. If you're from Texas, you know H-E-B, and H-E-B have their own kind of like Whole Foods type, and it's called Central Market. It's another grocery store in Texas. So I worked there in the cafe, and I loved it because I learned another way of how to do things and produce, and I was in charge of the cafe. And then I went back home and I did catering. Back home, we have a hotel, and in the catering area of the hotel, the salon is almost for 750 people. And weddings in Mexico are course dinner weddings. They're not buffets. So it's about cooking for 450 people. So it's mass production of fine dining food. And then I came back, and then I did the executive chef in, casual restaurants, and then I decided to start teaching. So externship can open your doors, but what you decide to do in externship is not going to shape the rest of your career, okay? So you can start in fine dining and move to something else, make your career in fine dining. My husband never left fine dining until he took over catering and teaching now. But he was working, he was part of a James Beard nominee kitchen. He worked for Michelin star restaurants, so he was always fine dining. But here's the thing. When people always ask us, because he's a chef too, obviously, when people always ask us, who's better? We never, and I know everybody says like, oh, he says you because, he will be in trouble. But no, it's because we're so different at what we do. He is better in making that beautiful food and fine dining and just make it exquisite in his imagination, because he worked in a restaurant where they changed the menu daily depending on what they found at the farmer's market and local. So he's great at that, at coming up with dishes. But talk to me about organization, about speed, and about mass production and catering, who's better, right? So it depends on what you want to do, but I do recommend trying different areas of the industry to find your niche, to find what you truly want to do. Of course, I'd love to also work in giving back. So anytime I have a chance, some soup kitchens or anything like that, I put into it. My mother-in-law is very involved with her church, so she's always asking me, because they do this yearly casserole thing, how to do it, the temperatures everything like that, and I help her. So definitely start thinking about as much as you can from your externship too, and take advantage of it, because the externship is an awesome time because you're technically still a student. So you are working in a restaurant or in the industry, but you are allowed to make mistakes that as a worker you should not be doing, because you are still a student. You are still learning. Okay, guys? All right. You have anything to add, Chef Kareem?
Absolutely right. I would say try not to panic so much. Just prep yourself. Like she said, one of the most important things you're going to need is some really good shoes. Because if you haven't been standing on your feet for a very long time, guess what? Your back is going to complain to you later that night, right? And your feet, because you're using muscles that you haven't used. So you've learned the techniques. If you've been practicing the techniques, now here's a great platform to just explore even more and pick up new concepts. Don't panic. But one of the things that I remember, I look at going for any type of job, like if I was buying clothes, you always go fit it on first, right? So I like fine dining. So I will go to the restaurant, and if you can, experience the restaurant, even if it's just to get a drink or an appetizer, because you want to see how their service is. And you can use this on your resume. The other thing that I do, if I go in for one position, I learn just about as many of them as I can, because guess what? Once you have that knowledge, no one can take it from you. And then you can add that to your resume. So it's all about building who you are for the journey that you're about to take. And it will take you on a nice journey.
Yep. And why do we focus on technique here at Escoffier? Because the first thing any chef is going to tell you as soon as you walk in the door is forget everything you learned from the previous chef. Mm-hmm. Because except the technique, the flavors differ from chef to chef. And I do have to say, until your name is on that door, your answer is always yes, chef.
Yes, chef. Or heard.
Okay, unless there's some kitchens that love input. There's other kitchens where chefs is my way or the highway. So it depends on where you're working. Some kitchens do encourage, imagination and creativity. Some others don't. So just be, knowledgeable where you're going, how the kitchen is run. I always tell students, go and eat there before you apply for a job there, just so you know what you're handling. Most of the restaurants, they also do a stage. It's called, because it's kind of like an interview, but they want to see you how you interact in the kitchen with the other cooks, and then how you move, how fast you move. So when you're doing stages, be sure, guys, to always keep moving. If the chef sees you standing, there's a saying in the kitchen: if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. So always look busy. I was to one point where I was cleaning the same area just to look busy. Other than that, I hope you enjoy it. Find what you want. And Gabriel, you have a question?
I was also going to add to it doesn't hurt you're experiencing a restaurant to ask to talk to the chef and maybe go back and look at the kitchen. And I started doing that because one time I asked to go look at, we were interested in buying the restaurant, and we walked through the kitchen, and it was a good thing we walked through the kitchen before we ate the food.
Gabriel?
Because, a lot of places are different, and a lot of people don't follow the same sanitary that we learned. Yeah. And you'd be amazed on what you see, how different people handle in different places.
Absolutely. I
just like to say, just maybe check out the kitchen before you eat there.
Yep. What he's saying, guys, is that you should probably ask to see the kitchen, the back of the house before you apply there, because some people just don't care about sanitation rules. There's a bunch of I won't eat on a restaurant that is C and below, even B's. I'm like from this, because it's really hard to get a B, C, or D, or even fail. So you're definitely doing something wrong. All right, so the little discussion that I wanted to have today, I just wanted to put in your head two scenarios, because I don't know if Mandy was here, but she brought it up last class, where we're talking about cultural appropriation and how to do it, right? So I have two scenarios that happen. Portland, as you know, is very advanced, it's very hipster, and it's all about, doing things right or whatever. So there's this couple of ladies in Portland that went to Puerto Vallarta, if I'm not mistaken, and they fell in love with these burritos and these tortillas and tacos that some old ladies were doing in a fonda. And fonda are little restaurants in Mexico. And they went to the ladies that were doing the tortillas, and they asked, hey, can we learn how to make the tortillas, because we want to make them back home? And the ladies were like, well, no, I'm not going to give you my recipe. So they went back home, and they started like spying on them and seeing what ingredients they were doing, how kind of like what the technique that they were doing. And then they went back home to Portland, and they started experimenting until they came up with the recipe and the technique that the ladies from Mexico were doing on the tortillas, and they opened a burrito truck. And it was a sensation, because their tortilla were made from home, the fillings were great, and they did their own sauces and stuff, and everybody was craving the burrito stand, until these ladies decided to tell the newspaper the story of the recipe of the tortillas and some of the salsas that they did. So being Portland, they boycotted the burrito truck, and it closed down. Mm-hmm. And then, Portland being Portland, they wanted to pass this law where they're saying that if you are not from the ethnic food that you're trying to cook, like if you don't have ancestry from that culture, that you should not be able to open an ethnic restaurant or food truck or anything like that from that culture. Which to me is a little bit going way too above and beyond, because let's say I lived in Mississippi, I am married to a Mississippian. If I go back home and I want to open a Mississippi juke joint with Mississippi barbecue, with that law, technically I wouldn't be able to, because I'm not Southern, right? So I think it goes above and beyond. And then we have great chefs, and I love to use him as an example, because some people have been trying to make him guilty of cultural appropriation. And this chef is called Rick Bayless, and he is a chef from Chicago. He has now a restaurant group, and he sells his salsas on Target and Walmart. He is a powerhouse now, but he cooks traditional Mexican food. So you have these two scenarios. And if it was for the law in Portland to go through, Rick Bayless could not cook what he cooks. Right. But here's the thing, guys. Rick Bayless went many years ago, in his early 20s, when he just became chef, he went on a trip to Mexico. If I'm not mistaken, he was in Oaxaca. He fell in love with the food and the culture that he decided to stay for a year. And this whole year, he was studying from the old ladies, from the chefs, from the moms, from the grandmas, from anybody that would allow him. He was respectfully asking them to teach him how to do this food. So he comes back to Chicago, and he opens a restaurant from all this research. And I need to tell you another thing. Every year since he opened his restaurant, he goes back to Mexico and immerses himself in 2 months of just researching every single regional food that he's tried. He's definitely not finished with Mexico yet, but nowadays, being a big restaurant group and having many restaurants in Chicago, he sends all his sous chefs and lead cooks to Mexico to learn from the chefs and the people in Mexico. If you ask us Mexicans, we've adopted Rick Bayless as a Mexican because he stays true to the traditions and the culture of Mexican food. What is the difference between these two people? And I've been telling you guys over and over and over.
Appreciation for the culture.
Exactly. I've been telling you since the beginning. Rick Bayless acknowledged the history. He acknowledged why Mexican food is cooked the way it is, why we use the ingredients. He acknowledged the history behind it, the pretty, the ugly, etc. And he respected the culture. And he learned from it. And he came home and he tried to teach everyone around him how to pay respect and homage to this culture. To whereas these two burrito ladies, they did not give a flying hoot about the culture or respecting or anything about the culture. They just wanted the recipe for the tortillas and the recipe for salsas to make money out of it. That is why this class is important, because I want to teach you guys how to be a Rick Bayless when you're researching other cuisines, how to acknowledge the history of the culture and respect it, and then pay homage to what you're cooking. Because food and culture and proud and ego and everything is attached to it. So imagine somebody, if I come to New Orleans and I'm just like, how to do jambalaya, because I'm gonna, make a restaurant back home and I just wanna, Or if I come and I'm excited and I do research and I ask Cajun chefs and I ask Creole chefs and I ask soul food people and I ask everybody in New Orleans about the culture and why it came that way. When people are excited about your culture, you share. You don't care. You're like, oh yeah, we do it like this because my grandma, she told me, all of that. That's how everybody in Mexico is going to be. Like, I tell you, if you turn around and you look, my husband is like 6'5", blonde, blue-eyed American Southern boy. Like when he goes to my hometown, everybody's like, holy moly, like he's so tall. But he turns around and he says, hola, mucho gusto. All Mexicans lose it. They're all like, oh my God, he speaks Spanish. And they're all like, and he doesn't speak Spanish. He just knows those words. And everybody's like, hey. All of them were inviting them to eat. I swear to God, I thought he was going to die from how much food he ate the first time that I brought him down there. Because even if he doesn't speak Spanish, he's trying. He's making an effort. He's asking questions. Like the guy that was making tacos al pastor, let him grab the machete and make his own tacos. And it's like, if you pay respect and show interest, people are going to love it. And that's the difference between these two people. There's nothing wrong with making money out of your restaurants, out of other culture that is not yours, if you do it correctly. If you don't pay, if you don't acknowledge or respect, then it becomes cultural appropriation. And this comes to anything that has to do with culture. The way people dress, the way people talk, the way the music, the literature, the food. If you acknowledge and respect it and pay homage to it, nobody's going to mind. If you do it like the ladies did, and I even have one person here, he's my former student from the community college, and I saw on Facebook he put, does anybody know good taco stands here at the coast because I want to open my own? And, he laughed because I said, go to Mexico. That's why I put, if you want to open a taco truck, go to Mexico and learn about tacos, right? If I want to open a Cajun restaurant somewhere else, I better visit New Orleans. If I want to open a Tex-Mex restaurant somewhere else, I better visit Texas, right? Do your proper research. If you're far away, like we will all love to go and visit China if you want to open a Chinese fusion restaurant, but you can still do research from home and pay homage and respect to it, right? Don, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say, I can relate to your, adopting this guy, the Mexicans adopted him. I was adopted by a Mexican Indian family when I was younger. And when all the guys are watching De La Hoya boxing and stuff, I was in the kitchen with all the women, and I learned a lot. I could never replicate it. It's too spicy. And they actually named me Wedo. So
There you go.
I love it. It's perfect. And to this day, I still call them and talk to them. And I can't really exchange recipes because their English is really horrible, but just the value of that alone is worth a lot. And from that experience of what you're saying, I learned if you can't value what you're making, it's not worth serving. You know, so it's, I just wanted to share that because I could relate when you were saying it. Man, you must know me. I was adopted too. You know, so it's like, oh my gosh. So I totally agree. Being in service in so many different countries, the respect for, you know, even in uniform for those different cultures, you know, when you're in the Bosnian War and everything else on both sides and things that you do, everything has a consequence or an action. So the best thing Chef Green says, she stole my thunder, was respect. But I just want to say thank you. I can relate to that. So I just want to give you another story.
Yeah, and it goes to every culture, right? If you go and learn, people will love you in any country that you are. I've been lucky enough, and I know Chef Corinne and you don't, obviously, to travel a lot. And what I try to do is at least hello and goodbye in the language or where I'm traveling. Because, and I told my husband to do that, because if you open with that, they will be nice. Because they see that you're, even if you butcher the bonjour, even if you butcher the hola, ¿cómo estás? Even if you butcher it, they see that you're trying. Same thing if, you know, somebody comes over here and they don't speak English, but they say, oh, hello, and then ask the question, you're like, hey, they're trying, come on, right? And we in the United States, we are not very used to that because obviously English it's a language that is very important, and a lot of places learn English as a second language. And I think we got complacent that everybody knows English, so we didn't learn another language. But in the rest of the world, most of the countries are at least bilingual, right? So that's why we will have a little bit of a trouble when we travel. So that's what I say, just, you know, learn one word. Even if you know that they know English, just say one word in their language and they will appreciate it a lot. Gabriel, you might have to type your question because you're breaking up a lot when you talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Am I still breaking up?
Yeah. Maybe if you turn off your camera, that also works. If you turn off your camera, the connection makes it faster. Does anybody have any questions and concerns? Most of our day went for the externship.
I want to share this really quick. I received an email from a student, and it's in regards to curry, right? He was actually making curry for Jamaicans, and he was told that it tastes more like the Indian curry. So remember, I say hands, it's the hands. And I learned about the hand from my fashion design days. That means your hands, what you bring to the table, is a little different. Now, in the islands, I was explaining to him about the way they season. We will season something a week before. But what they usually season it with is something called green seasoning. And it's a combination of different spices and scallions. And it's grind up. You could do it in a food processor, but it goes into just about everything. So that's like the basis, right? One layer right there. And then with the curry, like for me, what I do with the curry, instead of just making the stew or whatever it is, and some people just put it into that liquid. You layer it. So what I do, I actually cook the curry first. Cooking the curry in just a little bit of fat in the pan wakes it causes it to blossom. So you treat it almost like how you would treat roux, in the pan with the oil, cook it off, and then I also add turmeric to it to balance out the flavors. Right? And then I push it aside in the pan and put my onions in. Because now you're getting another layer. So it's all about how you paint that picture. Understand the ingredients and then manipulate them.
Absolutely.
The Asian way is going to be done a little bit different. So you'll have a different taste.
Yep. And remember, it's the influence from that country, but then the Jamaicans made it their own and tweaked it with what they had.
And also based on the ingredients that's around the Caribbean.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, Paul, go for it. You have a question?
Yeah, I spent 20 years in the Navy, and I come to hear the line that if you speak 2 languages, you're bilingual. If you speak 3 languages, you're trilingual. And if you only speak 1 language, you're an American.
Yeah, right? I've heard that before, yeah. Yeah, you know, some people are like, when I was younger, my English wouldn't come this fast. You know, I needed to practice. I practice a lot with hip hop music. I downloaded the lyrics and then I just try and sing it with the rapper. But I was made fun of, and it always blew my mind because I'm like, you're making fun of my accent, but that means I'm bilingual. So nothing to be ashamed of. Before we go into the question, I just want to recap, guys, week 3. Week 3 is, again, a busy week. You're choosing a new region in Europe or Africa. Remember, specific regions. Don't do all of Spain, all of Italy. You have to go regional in those big countries. Most of the countries in Africa, you could do the whole country, or you can divide it in north or south. Like I said before I started recording, in Africa, the interesting part is like North Africa is completely different than the rest, and then each country has its own thing. But Morocco and Egypt are completely different than Senegal or Ethiopia or South Africa. Europe, definitely regional. Go as regional as you can, with the exception of the very, very small countries. You do have to do a flavor passport again, production sheet, narrative, and drawing. And remember, either or, just one, a breakfast item or a street food item. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some countries in Europe that they're not big on breakfast. It's just a little pastry and coffee. Do the pastry and coffee. If it's just toast and coffee, do the toast and coffee or toast and tea or anything like that. Just do that. Even if it's too simple, remember, week 3 is simple because you're focusing on the research. Your week 4 is going to be focused on the cooking itself. Mm-hmm. You do have your conversion knowledge check for week 3, and you download your externship papers. And that's what's required of you for this week, okay? Don, go for it.
Yes, small word, poquito. So I'll go on with that. As far as the food goes from different cultures, can we say that it's German-inspired, Jamaican-inspired? So that way you're not really giving it that fine-tune, say, this is authentic. It's just inspired because you're putting your twist on that. So that's okay to do, too, if you're opening a restaurant, to say, hey, this is just a German-inspired Bavarian restaurant or something.
Fusion,
yeah.
Right?
Fusion, yes. Yeah. Yes, and you kind of answered what I was going to ask in reference to, like, if you chose Germany, it's so many different regions. What you have in Grafenwöhr versus Bayern Deutsch and in Bavaria, everything is different. Now, some of that food you're not making. It's you're just boiling an egg, if that, or you're making that toast with some salami. You're not in the farm making that. So how are we to present that if we're not really physically doing a technique? We're just going through that process of putting it together.
Now for week 3, I don't want you to focus on like 6 photos. If it's just the salami, cut the salami, toast the bread, show those pictures of the step and present it.
Okay, great. And
yeah,
right. And Paul, good point. And thank you for serving too. Sorry.
No problem. And the breakfast or street food, the plating, guys, don't go overboard. Plate it like they do. For example, in Belgium, they do French fries as street food, and it's my God, in Holland too, and they're amazing. And they do it just on a cone of paper. Do it like that, right? My mouth watered just thinking about them. Mary Lou, you have a question?
Kind of on the same boat, just like Don said. I've been looking and I've been trying to narrow it down. I'm looking at Greece. I love their food. So I'm trying to narrow it down. And I asked Chef Karen about this. Should I just focus on the entire island or just on a certain area in general? I mean, it's not that big per se.
You said Greece?
Yes, ma'am.
So Greece, you can do North Greece is different, and then you have Southern Greece, which is the Mediterranean part of Greece,
Yeah.
and then you have Crete, which is the island on the bottom. So I would do North, South, or Crete.
Okay. All right. That narrows it. Thank you.
No problem. Ashley, go for it.
Yes, ma'am. I was just questioning, like, as I said, so just what, how can I put it? Like this week, I did example. I did shrimp for one of my dishes. Now, even though we eat it, or the Southern does eat it as a meal, like they'll eat it as a meal. I wound up doing another dish just because I tried to text to see if that was okay, because I didn't know barbecue shrimp and the baguettes would be a meal considered to y'all. So I just did another one and put both of them on the pictures just to make sure. So then I did beans and chicken because I wasn't sure, because the barbecue shrimp don't really have a side that it goes with.
If
Like
it doesn't
besides
have a
baguette.
side, if it's just a sandwich, then that's how you do it, right? If it's just skewered shrimp, it's skewered shrimp. It is
Okay.
how traditionally they eat it. Now for your dinners, normally if it's just shrimp, and that would be considered kind of like, if it's shrimp skewers or put on a toasted bread, normally that's more like an appetizer. Normally when we talk about dinner and appropriate sides, it's, let's say, what you normally would eat as the big meal in that country, right? So, and it normally comes, and when I mean by sides, guys, I do not mean appetizer, dessert, drink. I mean the actual size of the protein. Okay, there's some dishes, for example, if you chose Portugal and you do feijoada, then that's your entire dish, because it's a stew that has all its sides in the stew. If you're doing part of Germany where they do bratwurst, but normally they're served with sauerkraut, and they're normally served with some dipping sauce and mustard most of the time, and that's it. But do your sausage with sauerkraut and mustard, right? If you're doing shepherd's pie, everything's in it. If you're doing tibiden from Senegal, everything's in it. All right, you don't need to do appetizer and dessert. It just has to be a meal that they eat for dinner, how it is served. All right. Any other questions or concerns? All right.
Chef?
Go for it, Chef.
We didn't get a chance to talk about week 2, but I can tell many of you became comfortable. You got over that week 1, became comfortable. Chef, they were showing off all in my face. And guess what? I love it, right? From your production, some of you forgot the drawing. Don't forget the drawing. Send that in too. If you can't, I would suggest, some of you forgot the production sheet. If you can fit the production sheet onto that little space under the narrative, pop it on there and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? But you've been doing really well.
Yeah, I did see.
You make me look bad.
I did see some pictures, Chef, and some of you also text me your dinners. I'm like, oh my God. I do have to say, especially now, a time where we're dealing with storms and the change of weather and all that, guys, you need to practice a little bit of time management. That's why you have a whole week to submit your assignment. Do not wait until Monday or Tuesday if you're in the zone where there are some of the storms going on, if something's going on in your life. Always submit early, so if something happens, you're good by it. Especially the weeks that you have your flavor passport, start sooner the better for you, so you don't get overwhelmed, okay?
And also, makeup is open, right, Chef?
Yes, the makeups are open and will remain open until the end of week 5. Okay, so if you missed any assignment, try and do the makeup as soon. A lot of people leave it to the end, but then you have the weekly assignments besides the one that you missed. So try and get back on track as soon as you can. You have 2 makeup assignments in this class.
If you have submitted a makeup assignment, shoot me a message so I can just get on it. Don't wait.
Our numbers and emails are on the right side of the class page. The number that is there, you can text me at, and I will send a message out tonight with the number that you can call me. I have if you've received a text and a call from me, you've noticed that the numbers are different. It's because we have a calling number and we have a texting number. Okay, but those both numbers are mine. So I either calling you from one number or texting you from the other one. Okay.
And email me is better.
Yeah, she can be reached at email. I can be reaching whatever means possible you want. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. Have all your externship papers ready. Get in contact with the career service representative. Next week is also a fun discussion. We're going to be talking about how poverty has shaped the cuisines of the world, and it's a very interesting discussion too. Don, you have something to add?
Yes, in closing, you didn't give the Mexican wedding any justice by saying it's just long. It's in the morning to wee hours in the next day. It goes all day. I was a photographer for 20 years. Oh my God. I did one. I will never do another one because I cannot stand that long.
Well, I'll just end it with this. My wedding was 3 days long.
Okay, there you go.
We had an icebreaker the day before, the day of the wedding. We started at 7 p.m. It ended at 4:30 a.m. We did the course dinner, and then at 3 a.m. we put out burritos, different types of burritos, so people don't go drunk. They eat something before they leave. And then the next day is what we call the tornaboda, and that's when the mariachi comes, and we have a Mexican buffet going on, and that started at noon, and it ended at 3 a.m. So yes, it's it's a whole thing. All the Americans that came to my wedding were like, oh. I received texts like weeks later, I'm still burping tequila. So there you go, guys. Culture, lovely. Indian wedding, 7 days long. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.